Okay, this video is going to go through what we were able to complete in class today. We're going to go through part of the program, the class called Words, and you were asked to do this program to trace the code and determine what the output would be based on your understanding of this talent show analogy that we did. Of course, this is without having been told anything about uh, terms that relate to methods and so forth. So now we're going to start. We're going to look at this and also begin to give you some definitions of some of the terms for methods. So as we look at this program, let's look back first at the talent show. The MC of the talent show is the one who started the program. He's the one, or she's the one, that got up and said, okay, welcome to everybody. And notice the only line of code that I really gave you was this code, and that the MC is related to the main method. And so this tells us that if the MC started the program, the main method is what starts programs in Java. And so back over here, this is where we are going to start. So the compiler will go down here to line 21 here first, and then do its thing. The important thing to understand is that the compiler is going to read code like a book. All right, so it's going to read code like a book, top to bottom. And so the tendency is going to be, after you're done with a line of code, you will go then to the next line of code, except there's going to be some landmarks that are going to tell us to go to a different location other than the next line down. And so we are going to major on those landmarks right now. So the first landmark is the main method. That is the first landmark. That's because that's where it all starts. The next line down, as you read it like a book, is to print apple. So the first thing you should have in your output is apple. And I don't know where to put this. So I'll go ahead and put it up here. This might work. So output, I'll start it up here, is apple. The next line down says to print boat, and so that prints boat. Next line down is this weird kind of phrase here, and so you'll notice that it says silly sweet. It's just sitting there, but if you look up here, you see silly sweet up here. So as you begin to look over into the program, the talent show program, you'll notice that the MC calls out Christy Parker by her name. That's one of the things that we talked about. Uses her name to introduce her so that she knows that it's her turn to get up and do her performance. In the same way, this line right here, silly sweet, actually points to another line of code up here that has silly sweet in it. So it's calling a method by its name. Now the important thing to do here is for you to take this method call. This is actually, I'll just go ahead and do this now. We're going to call this a method call. This is something you should be writing on your paper. This is a method call, and it's calling. It's a method call because it's calling a method, just like Christy was called by her name. The method is called by its name, and so this is a landmark. And so what we want to do is we want to highlight this landmark. Now it's going to take us to, just like this Christy being called to action, she goes up here, and the next line of the program is actually up here, and we have the heading of Christy Parker's performance and the things that she does. And so we want to actually go up here to silly sweet. Well, we want to also do the you know what I should do is make this the same color. And so it's going to go up to silly sweet, and so we're going to do that as a landmark as well. Now a method call. First of all, a method call calls or invokes the method into action by its name. Just like over here, the MC called Christy Parker, invoked her to action, to do her performance by calling her name. And that's the critical part. The next thing is that the name of the method is Silly Sweet with parentheses. It's not just Silly Sweet. So Silly Sweet without parentheses is like the name of a variable. Silly Sweet with the parentheses is your clue that this is a method. And we'll learn about the definition of a method soon enough, but not quite yet. So here we are. We've got the name of the method. The question here that I want to ask, well, who is doing the calling, or what's doing the calling? Well, over here, the MC called Christy Parker, but we also said today that the MC is like the main method. So the main method is calling. So in this, it's important to understand that this main method here is doing the calling, and the method that's being called, who's being called or what's being called, is the Silly Sweet method. Okay, so these are landmarks. Start with the main method. This is a landmark. This really could almost have its own color. I don't know. Good. Okay, here we go. So, because this starts it, that's the only method that starts a program. It goes down. It goes the next line down until it gets to this landmark, which is a method call. The method call says, "Hey, let's go to the method up here," and so it goes up to line 15. And so now we're at this method, and now we're going to be able to go to the next line down again and read like from top to bottom. So now this line of code here, what is this called? This is called a method header or declaration. Right? A method header, or it's a method declaration. A method header or declaration starts with, for us, is going to start with public static. Now it could be private and it could be non-static, but as far as this semester goes, we are only going to do public static type methods. These are called access specifiers, which we're not really going to discuss what that means at this point. The next word, void, is actually called a return type. And later on, we'll find out what a return type does or is. Now, return types are like data types. So they can be ints, doubles, strings, and they also can be void. And void, of course, means nothing or empty. So this just simply means that this method returns nothing. Now, what does that mean? Well, we'll learn later what it means to return. The other part of this method header is the name of the method itself, which in this case is Silly Sweet. And that's because of its name, that's how we knew that we were calling a method, and this is how we knew that this is where the method is located. So this is like Christy Parker's performance up here. So Christy Parker's performance, this is Silly Sweet's performance. Now notice, Christy and Sally and Dale, they all performed certain acts, certain things. They did certain actions. Okay, well, each method, that's what a method does. It's actually a block of code, which is a block of code is shown or demonstrated by these braces. It's a block of code that completes certain actions. It does a certain performance. It has certain actions. In this case, this method is going to do two things. It's going to print dog. So dog, and then it's going to print forest. Okay, so apple, boat, dog, forest is how it should go. So Christy, of course, does a magic trick, and then she takes a bow when she's finished. That was her actions. All right, and now in this method, I don't know why I have the AS here, but the other terminology that we want to know is that this is called the method body between the two braces. So if we say anything about the body of the method, it's whatever, all the lines of code in between the two braces. Now the program is done. So over here, the program was done. Christy was done. She took a bow. She's done. So where did we go? Well, notice that all three of these, they went down here right below the line in which they were invoked, or they were called into action. Well, Silly Sweet, this method, was called into action on line 26. So what we're going to do here is when this line is called, or when this method is done, we are going to do the same idea, only we're going to memorize it as returning to the method call. So the method was called on line 26. So always go back to that method and see if there's anything to do. Now, sometimes there will be something to do there, sometimes not. In this case, we'll go back to the method call. There's nothing to do, so we go to the next line down. And so you'll notice we're right here below the line in which it was called, just like over here. And so, again, this is another landmark. The method declarations, the curly braces for each method are actually landmarks over here. So this ending brace is a landmark that tells us we're not just going to the next line down. We are going to return to the method call. And so we go to the method call, go to the next line down, and so now we're going to print hamster. So this is what you should have so far, and there'll be more coming later, but this is pretty much about all we're going to talk about. As you'll notice, it prints hamster, it goes to the next line down, and we have another method call. And then, so now this is like Christy Parker did her thing. Now we're going to call on Dale or Sally Sue or something. So this is calling Lumpy Loot, which is going to be up here in this line. So this will be another line. This will be more landmarks. Okay, here's another landmark. All right, so if this makes sense, if you understand how this is working, you should be able to write your own line of code using this as an example. So tonight when you do 3.2, chapter 3.2 assignment, then use these handouts as a guide. All right, that's it.